What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Jenks Island podcast, the only NFL podcast reading year takes from a washed-up Division III cornerback. I'm your host, Grayson Jenkins, joined again by my good friend Ty McGee. And in today's episode, we're going to be breaking down the 2025 NFL schedule. It just dropped about 2 hours ago, hour and a half ago now. And they did a pretty good job of covering up the leaks before the official release. There were a few games being questioned. I know last year I knew the whole Saints schedule within the first 3 hours of after waking up. The whole schedule was pretty much leaked last year, but they did a good job of covering it up this year. And with that being said, week one is a pretty fun slate. We'll go through, I think we'll go week one and then go kind of from there. Not all the weeks, but just some key matchups. But week one, you got a pretty solid slate here. You got the Cowboys taking on the Eagles on the kickoff game. Then you got Chiefs, Chargers, I believe, in Brazil. And then Ravens, Bills Sunday night, and Vikings, Bears Monday night. So really solid slate here. Ty, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, like you were saying, there a lot of really good matchups here. We get three divisional matchups in the primetime slots. A lot of really good quarterback play. We get two rookie quarterbacks from last year in Penix JJ and Caleb. The Dak and Jalen, the Mahomes and Herbert, the last year's two MVPs, and then a lot of other good slots. We got, Green Bay and Detroit, the Houston Rams game, 49ers Seahawks. So, across the board, a lot of really, really good matchups. And we're slated for a really good, week one schedule.
I'm a really big fan of the primetime games. And like you said, there's a couple just solid normal games as well. I'm interested to see kind of where the Bengals start off this year, because we know the Bengals recently, every time they start a season, they start off slow. Could they lose to the Browns week one? That's a good tester for them to see where they're kind of at. And then the Broncos, we'll talk about this later. The Broncos playing the Titans, who got kind of screwed with a rookie quarterback this year with Cam Ward being the number one pick. They didn't get a single primetime game. We'll break that down as well. But getting into the international games here real quick before we do the primetime games, pretty solid slate. We have 6 straight Sundays after the Brazil game, the first week of the season. We have 6 straight Sundays of 9:30 football. And we talked about this, I think it was the first season of the podcast. Hammer and I were talking about waking up, eating a bowl of cereal or whatever your breakfast may be on the East Coast, and getting to watch football is the best thing possible for a football fan out there. So blessing in disguise for all the football fans out there, waking up early, getting some football at 9:30 for 6 straight weeks. But Vikings, Steelers, then back-to-back weeks, the Vikings will be away. International will be Vikings, Browns, Broncos, Jets, Rams, Jaguars, Falcons, Colts, and Commies, Dolphins. Ty, with the Broncos being international for the Jets game, what are your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, being an East Coast guy, I was kind of hoping it would be in New York, but maybe that's an opportunity for me to go to London. And that's what's really cool about a lot of these games, right? It's opportunities for fans to kind of go overseas, explore different things. If you're a Vikings fan with 2 weeks of PTO, you can go, explore Ireland and then the UK. So
yeah,
no, I think, anytime you're going overseas, you want to see what's the games before and the games after. Do you have the bye week? Luckily for us, we have, a pretty easy game following this game. It's the Giants. So, not too concerned with going over there. And the opponent is, nothing to, really be too scared of either. So I think it's just a fun opportunity for some of the players. And, like you said, I love a 9:30 a.m. start. Get out there on the Blackstone, make some good breakfast, and watch those 9:30 games for 6 weeks straight. I mean, that's pretty awesome.
Exactly. And the thing is, I don't think any of these games are absolutely terrible right off the bat. I mean, the Falcons, Colts might be a little bit rougher than some of these other games, the Vikings, Browns, but either way, they're still getting at least one decent to above average team in these games to watch out for those international fans out there. So it's a good slate for them. Moving on to prime time
players on all these teams, right? The Jaguars are great, like Travis Hunter, Anthony Richardson's at least fun, right? There's fun players. So I think, for the international fans, it'll keep them entertained.
Yeah. No, exactly. You just hope that they get to witness some good players, some good games, just something positive for the sport itself, just to expand even more in future years. Getting into the primetime games, the Thursday night schedule. Let me see if I got that. I can pull that up for us. Thursday night is actually not a bad slate this year. Let me pull it up. I got to remove one of these. Hold on. But the Thursday night games, I mean, we usually we talk about Thursday night, right, as the weak link of primetime games. And this year, it's not the case. So here, let me pull it up. You got a solid slate here. You got the Commies, Packers starting it off on week number 2. Week 3, you got the Dolphins, Bills. That's a good game. Seahawks, Cardinals, 49ers, Rams. I'm trying to run through like even see if find a bad game here. Probably the worst game here would be the Jets, Patriots, week 11. Outside of that, I mean, these are all pretty stacked
And I kind of
games.
like that game. Like I like,
Yeah.
what both those teams are building there. Fields, he could, if he can have a bounce back season with Garrett Wilson, Drake May. I think probably the worst game realistically is going to be Steelers Bengals, just based on what their quarterback situation is right now. If they're going in with Will Howard and Mason Rudolph,
Yeah,
I know
that
the
is true.
Bengals defense isn't great, but there's no way that they're
It's
going to be able to keep up with the Bengals offense can score. So that might be the
yeah,
worst.
that is true. If Aaron Rodgers goes over there, they got a shot. But yeah, as of right now, I mean, yeah, if you have Will Howard going against the Bengals, that's probably not going to be a great look. And then like the only other really kind of semi-weak game maybe would be like the Falcons Bucks, depending on how the NFC South plays this year. I mean, the NFC South is always going to be a little bit lower than some of these other divisions, but this year they have some hope for both of those teams. So interesting schedule. Ty, week 17, the Broncos are playing the Chiefs. That's a big one for you guys, especially towards the end of the year and on Christmas. We'll break that one down deeper as well in a little bit. But I think like the best game here, to me at least, would probably be the Commies Packers. I'm really excited for that one in week 2. I think that's a good matchup. So, anyways, moving on to Sunday night football, we got another solid slate of games. Week 18, of course, is going to be the flex game. So, whatever teams are kind of battling for playoff position. But week 1, we already said they're starting off with the Ravens, Bills. Some other solid games here would be Chiefs, Lions on week 6. Let's see, week 11, Lions, Eagles as well. And then what else we got? Yeah, Broncos Commies as well. Week 13. That's a solid game. And I know a lot of people are going to be like, why are we talking about the Broncos so much? Obviously, it is Ty's team, but the Broncos are also a team that are going to be good this year. And I think a lot of people are like, oh, it's just Bo Nix, like whatever. They're going to have one of the best defenses in the league. So I think they'll be a lot better than people expect, which I don't know why people aren't expecting to be great, right? But I think they will be a really good team this year. And then week 17 as well, you got the Bears 49ers. So Ty, what's your favorite game from this slate of games?
Yeah, I'm excited to see some of these Chiefs games, right? Because I think they have a really tough schedule. Like,
Mhm.
they obviously drawing the Lions, they have the Texans, I think they have the Bills, and a lot of these are in primetime slots. So, seeing how they can handle how they can bounce back from the Super Bowl loss, right? Like, I don't think they did anything necessarily spectacular this offseason to kind of build back the team either. I like the Josh Simmons pick, but is he going to be healthy? Some of the other offensive linemen they added, not too great. I think probably by fit. I mean, obviously, I think that Broncos Commanders game is going to be so fun because of
Yeah.
Bo and Jaden. But I think it's got to be the Week 1 game, right? Like, I mean, Ravens, Bills. Last year's 2 MVP candidates, 2 teams that I think we kind of talked about this early in the offseason. I think coming into this season are going to be the AFC favorites for getting to the Super Bowl. So I think that Week 1 game, I mean, you just can't ask for a better Sunday night football game.
Yeah. And the great thing about Sunday Night Football is it kind of sets the I mean, I don't know how to put this really, but you're sitting at home, something hits different when that Sunday Night Football theme starts playing on the TV, and you're sitting there getting ready for the nightcap of the previous games, and it sets the tone for even Monday night or things like that. Like it is the cream of the crop coming to prime time. So I'm excited for that Ravens Bills game and the rest of the games in this slate as well. Then getting into Monday Night Football, interesting games here. We got a few weeks where there's going to be 2 games on Monday night. We have week 2, 4, 6, and 7 are all 2 games. Week 2 and week 7, I believe, are the 2 games where they're 7 o'clock and 10 o'clock, and then the other 2 are going to be like a 8 or 7:15 and then an 8:15 kind of where you have to flip the schedule or flip this channels and stuff like that, which kind of sucks. I don't think there's a lot of fans out there of that, but the 10 o'clock games are a little bit rough too for fans in the East Coast to watch. But those games are the Bucks, Texans, and then the Chargers, Raiders on week 2. Week 4 are going to be the Jets taking on the Dolphins, then the Bengals taking on the Broncos. Broncos featured again here. And then week 6, the Bills taking on the Falcons, Falcons, I should say, and the Bears, Commies. Week 7, Bucks, Lions, Texans, Seahawks. So again, a really solid slate of games. I mean, you look at it, there's a lot of good games here. Week 8, especially the Commies, Chiefs, that's a fun one. But what are your thoughts on this slate, Ty? What's your favorite game here?
Yeah, I think it's a really, really good slate. I mean, obviously with the double headers, right? They're going to pack in some of these games. The Bucks Lions is obviously a great one. Broncos Bengals. It was a thriller last year, right? We're going to get another one of those. But I think one that's really, really being slept on is that Packers Eagles game. I think that's going to be a really good game. Two teams that just always duke it out. So I'm excited to see that one. And I think even Eagles Chargers, they're going to be a
This
sneaky
is
team
sneaky
this year.
match. Yeah.
They made the playoffs last year. Definitely upgraded that offense. It sucks being in that division with a lot of these really good teams. So I think that's going to be one too that is going to be a great game to watch, especially late in the season. Right? Let's see. How are the Eagles? Playing. Do they have the Super Bowl hangover, or do they continue? With the hot hand? Can the Chargers? Historically have been a team that, maybe star hot, but, finish a little cold and aren't very clutch. And so, I'm excited to see, those two games specifically for the Eagles too, right? As the
Yeah.
Super Bowl defending
Yeah.
champs.
And that Eagles Packers game, obviously a rematch of both week 1 and the playoff game from last season. Really good matchup there. And I think the Packers will be trying to get their get back. Well, also like this week 10 for them, their schedule's a little bit tough. They got an early bye week 5, and then they have a bunch of tough matchups, a bunch of tough opponents. So are they going to be able to keep playing with like a lot of confidence and a lot of energy throughout that after that week 5 bye? Getting into the holiday games here, we got, let me find Thanksgiving games. We got Packers Lions at the 1 p.m. slot, the Chiefs Cowboys 4:30, and Bengals Ravens at 8:20. So, I mean, any fans out there sitting on Thanksgiving trying to talk with family, it's not happening. If you're a fan, you're watching these games because these are all really, really good games. You got the Packers Lions. Obviously, that's a great divisional matchup. The Chiefs Cowboys, obviously, with George Pickens going to the Cowboys, that game got bumped up a notch. And the Bengals Ravens is always a lot of fun. My favorite game here would probably have to be the Bengals Ravens, just because I want to see what the Bengals can do this year, right? Where they dedicated all of their time to the offense. Can that defense possibly improve and turn it around against the Ravens and be the more dominant team this year? I don't know if that's going to happen, but that's my favorite games right now on the schedule. What are your thoughts, Ty, on this one?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we love the division rivalry games, right? But I think that
Mhm.
that Chiefs Cowboys game again. I'm going to go back to the Chiefs. How do they rebound from the post Super Bowl loss?
Mhm.
The Cowboys really added Jaden Pickens. They added a ton of guys to their backfield too. So hopefully one of those guys hits for them. I think this game's a lot more evenly matched than a lot of people think. Cowboys obviously didn't finish well last year, but no Dak. Now you have another weapon alongside CeeDee Lamb. The defense gets a little healthier. I think this is a really good game, a really fun game, a game that we don't see too often either. They were kind of talking about it earlier today too. There's a little bit of, history with just, in the region, the Hunt family being from Dallas. And so I think this will be a fun game. I think it'll be a closer one. And, this will be a true test for KC, right? Because say they lose to Detroit or some of these other teams, right? It's like, okay, those are the best of the best, right? You're going to lose some of those
Mhm.
games. But if they lose to the Cowboys, I think, that could be a real statement game for the Cowboys and a real reality check for KC. So interested to see how that one pans out.
Yeah, and one thing I like about this is the Cowboys games, the last few Thanksgivings that I can think of, at least off the top of my head, I'm like, they haven't been the best. And I want to say, who did they play? Did they play the Commies last year? That one was good because the Commies ended up being pretty solid. But before that, like they haven't had the
The
best
Giants, just
games.
bad
Yeah.
teams.
Yeah. It hasn't been the best games for Thanksgiving, but this, you're gonna be want to be sitting there. And if you have like a late Thanksgiving meal, like I usually have, it'll be like 5 o'clock, 4 o'clock. That kind of sucks to be eating and watching the game, but everyone's gonna be glued to their TVs the whole Thanksgiving day this year. Next, we got Christmas Day. Christmas Day, we got the Dallas Cowboys taking on the Washington Commanders, Detroit taking on Minnesota, and then Denver taking on Kansas City here as well. This is a really solid slate. Again, I mean these holiday games. are going to keep you locked onto your TV. So for anyone, I saw someone joke about the Chiefs players. If you're getting drafted to the Chiefs, say goodbye to your family, say goodbye to holidays. You're going to be on all the holiday games, which isn't, it's obviously just a joke, but obviously the Cowboys too, both holiday games. I think the Lions, both holiday games too. So I I
Mhm.
I commented to Hammer and Ty when I saw that. So I was like, let some other teams get in here, man. I mean, get some other teams on the holidays just for the parity, get some variety, mix and match. But obviously, these are gonna be the teams that the NFL wants on these forefront games, which makes sense. They have a lot of fans and they're damn good teams. So this is a really solid slate. My favorite game here is probably Denver, Kansas City. I think this is going to have a huge impact on the playoffs this late into the season. And I just think both of these teams, they hate each other. Right. I mean, we know both the other teams also hate each other, but this is just such a huge impact game to really set. Are the Broncos, right, Ty, your team, are the Broncos here for real this game this late in the season? That's going to be a true test. And are the Kansas City Chiefs still what they were the last few years? That's going to be this game that determines that, in my eyes, at least. So what are your thoughts? What's your favorite game? Probably going to be the Broncos, but still got to ask.
Yeah, I mean, that it's obviously a huge game being in Arrowhead too, right? With the way that the game ended last year in Arrowhead on a
Mhm.
blocked field goal. So, that's a real prove-it game for Denver. They've shown that they can, go to toe-to-toe with the Giants before. So, let's see if they can do it again with Casey this year. I'm going to pick a different game, though. I really like this Detroit-Minnesota game. I think it's, this is a point in the season where we're really going to start to see where J.J. McCarthy's made of. If they're kind of middling in the pack and have a chance to make the playoffs, say, become like a 10-7 team and sneak into the wild card. Sam Darnold showed the ability to compete in a lot of these big time division games. JJ kind of has a very similar team. They honestly improved in a lot of areas on the offensive and defensive line. It kept Aaron Jones. So, JJ's really set up for success. So, let's see what he can do. Come in, can he compete with Detroit? Because Detroit's obviously the big dog in the NFC. They're the big dog in the NFC North. So, I really, really want to see, what's JJ made of. I think that's probably my favorite game because I think it's obviously a division rivalry, but it means a lot for the young quarterback.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what JJ McCarthy is made of as well. I mean, personally, when it came to draft time last year, I wasn't a big fan of him, right? And I do think him getting to sit a season helps him. It 100% does. But I just don't really see the guy coming out and being a franchise quarterback for them. Obviously, you have Justin Jefferson, you have weapons, Jordan Addison, Hawkinson. That all helps 100%. I'm not denying that. I just want to see, does he come out? I'm not the biggest believer right now, but he can 100% prove me wrong. Uh, let's see where I want to go here next. Next week 18. I just want to break that down real quick. This is I'm glad that the NFL is going back to this. Week 18, rivalry games, all ending the season. A lot of playoff possible scenarios. Obviously, before the season, you don't know. And then towards the end of the year, it could be a bunch of bottom dwelling divisional teams playing for the better draft pick, things like that, even. But I mean, you got the Saints, Falcons, Bills, Jets, I mean, Bears, Lions, Broncos, Chargers, Green Bay, Minnesota. I mean, all these games, Philly taking on the commies, every single game is a rivalry, and it just really gets you amped up for that week 18 and gives you something to look forward to at the end of the year. What are your thoughts on this slate, Ty?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's awesome with the division rivalry games, and Week 18 means a lot, right? We saw Denver last year played Kansas City. Kansas City decided to rest their starters, and Denver got that big win and got into the playoffs after the heartbreaker the week before against Cincinnati. They had a chance to clinch against Cincinnati, and they didn't. They came in the next week and beat the crap out of the Chiefs and got into the playoffs. So for a lot of these teams, right, like the season's not over. You're playing for a wild card spot and to beat a division rival. And then on the other end, right, if you are, some of these division rivals that, maybe you're not resting your starters, but maybe your season is over, you're going to have one of the top picks in the draft, a chance to beat one of those teams, right? And we've seen it, late in the season, you kind of screw your draft spot too. We watched the Giants beat the Colts last
Yep.
year, kind of screwed them out of a higher pick. So, it's this is the time of the year that the crazy crap happens. A backup quarterback comes in and plays his butt off. A team solidifies a playoff spot. So it's fun that it's all division rivalry games as well.
Yeah, no, I think this season has a lot of potential to be one of the better seasons in the last few years because there's so much unknown about a lot of different teams. A lot of the younger quarterbacks are finally taking a big leap, stepping up. And I think it's kind of just the real new era of the NFL, right? I mean, obviously Aaron Rodgers is kind of on his way out. Kirk Cousins is done. Derek Carr done now too. Like it's just the new official new era completely of football almost, it feels like at least. And so I'm excited to see how it all plays out. Ty, real quick, Broncos schedule came out today. What are your thoughts on it? And what is the official Orange Crushing It Broncos record prediction?
Yeah, I think I really love how it shook out, and apparently the buzz within the building is that they love how it shook out too. I think you start off with two, pretty easy games, right? You get a rookie quarterback and the team that you beat up on last season, right? And then you get a little bit of a test there, right? Week 3 through 5, some teams that you can beat. That week 5 game is going to be tough because it's in the link, but Chargers division game, Bengals, you came down to the wire last year, so really really fun. Then you head over to London, right? And you come back and you have a nice stretch of games, right? You get the Giants, you get the Cowboys. The Texans a little bit of a challenge, but again, right? Like it's not the toughest 5-game stretch. And then you hit KC, right? And you're KC at home. That's a huge game. And then you go into the bye. You come out of the bye. You have a little bit of a rest because you get that late Sunday night football game. And then the end of that season is kind of like back and forth with like maybe an easier game with the Raiders. Then you get the Packers at home, tougher game, but you're at home. Jags, easier game, and then back to 2 division games that are huge, huge, huge. So I think it plays out well. There's not like a huge stretch of like tough games, and the tough games are honestly in the beginning of the season too. So I like it a lot. I put out some stuff today. I think the floor is. I really think the floor is like 12-5. I think there's some toss-up games. Specifically, I would say like Cincy, Green Bay, and Washington are probably some toss-up games. I think the ceiling is probably 14-3. I really think that's a possibility. A lot of guys talking about Denver can win this division. Denver can win this division. 14-3 is going to be what it's going to take to win this division, right? Kansas City is a good team. Even though they have a tough schedule. They've shown the ability to pull out tough games. They did it all last year. When people didn't think it was possible, they were winning 1-score games all season long. Chargers were a good team, playoff team that added a lot of, depth on the offensive side of the receiver room. And even Vegas, right? They got better. So it's a tough division. I think 14-3, was my prediction because I do think we beat Cincy. I do think we beat Washington, and I do think that we beat Green Bay. I had us losing to Philly. I had us losing the first game to the Chargers, and I had us losing the Christmas game to KC. I really think that we take one from those 2 division rivals. I think Philly's just going to be tough, but Cincy, I think that we match up really well with them with all the defensive additions that we made. That was kind of the issue last year, right? T. Higgins kind of had a really good day against us.
Yeah.
So I think we match up better against that. The Commies. I mean, I'm going to be at that game, so I can't choose against the Broncos. But I think again, the defense is really, really going to be key to kind of getting after Jaden Daniels, to stopping that horizontal raid. They love that screen game with Debo and Terry, and I think we got some dogs that can fly. I think Green Bay, sorry, Hammer, but we're at home. If we're going to be, the way that I predicted the schedule, if we're rolling the way we are, I just don't see there's a way we're losing to Green Bay. But one of those 3 games we could lose 2, go to 12-5. Yeah, but we were 10-7 last year with a rookie quarterback, with a defense that's not as good as it was this year. Still very good defense, and the weapons too, right? That's something I haven't talked about. RJ Harvey, he's going to come in. I think he's going to be a dog. Evan Ingram, a proven guy, a really athletic tight end, and Pat Bryan. I mean, if that guy can come in. Denver radio, they're talking about him possibly being like a wide receiver too. The way he's moving in camp, people are really, really excited about him. If it's not Pat, maybe it's Troy Franklin, maybe it's Vele, one of these young receivers, even Marvin Mims, right? Take another step up. One of the young receivers takes a step up. The addition of Harvey, the addition of Ingram. I mean, I think this is a team that, I got a lot of flack on, especially on TikTok. A lot of people hating on me for the record prediction, and of course, there's a lot of Chiefs, Raiders, and Chargers fans who don't have a damn clue what they're talking about and think that the Broncos are going to win 8 games when they won 10 last year. It makes no damn sense to me. But
Yeah.
I really, really believe in this team, and I think there's not a lot of, games where it's like, that's not winnable, right? So
Yeah, I mean, personally, when I'm looking at it, I I do think they improve obviously off of last year's record, and I think, like you already mentioned, the two weapons that they added on offense in the draft are my two favorite sleepers of both positions with RJ Harvey and Pat Bryant. Those are my guys of those two positions that I thought could be like the most impactful right away that no one's really looking at. RJ Harvey could be this explosive bell cow running back one. Pat Bryant could be the guy next to Cortland Sutton that, with Cortland Sutton taking away some pressure off of him, could really see a lot of targets and be a Michael Thomas type of guy for the Broncos. Obviously, not necessarily week career in his season one, but after that. But I think the Broncos, they're getting slept on way too much. Ty, I'll give you props where the props are due. I think they're in for a really good season. Now, coming from the Broncos, going to a team that is not as good right off the bat, but the Saints. The Saints schedule came out. Obviously, we have a really weak opponent schedule, and I think that's something that is at least beneficial for Tyler Shuck as a rookie quarterback. You don't want to be going against a bunch of juggernaut defenses and teams right away. There's still going to be some tough competition in here, but it's not the hardest schedule you'll see. Really, some of the tougher teams are going to be the 49ers, who have taken a step down from what they have been the last few years, the Bills, I'm trying to even just the Bills and the Rams. The Bills and the Rams are probably the two toughest teams here. Everyone else, I mean, you can beat, and the Bears, obviously, they'll probably take a leap up. But this is a really weak schedule outside of that. And if the Saints, it depends on Tyler Shuck, right? My ideal prediction would be probably 7 wins right off the bat with a rookie quarterback like Tyler Shuck and not a lot of talent on defense, everything like that. I mean, defense needs to improve next year, but we still have solid weapons on offense, and with Kellen Moore coming over, I think the ceiling, like the most ideal world ceiling, would be like 10 wins with a weak schedule like this if Tyler Shuck comes out and is a baller. Realistically, I see us winning 5-6 games. That's kind of where I'm at as a realistic prediction for this Saints team. And honestly, I wouldn't be too upset if Tyler Shuck plays well. I'm perfectly happy with 5-6 wins as long as you're upgrading on talent next draft. We're rebuilding. The new era is finally here with Derek Carr on his way out, retiring. So I think the Saints, we're in a rough spot, at least for this season, but I'm excited for the growth in the next few years. Tyler Shuck, it's up to you, kid. Win us at least 5 games to at least stay like positive. But we'll see how it plays out. I just think, Ty, this is, I don't know. It's gonna be a rough season.
it's
I'm
tough.
not used to it.
Yeah, it really does rely on Shuck. And honest to God, if he's bad and you lose less than 5 games, you're at the top of the draft board next
Yeah,
year, and you're picking,
exactly.
your offensive coordinator's son is coming into the draft next year, Garrett
Yep.
Nussmeier. So, yeah, I mean, this is tough, right? Like if Shuck hits, of course you want to win some games, but it's a tough schedule. You look, I think it's a tough schedule at least. I think a lot of these teams have made a lot of upgrades, but the Saints
Yeah,
didn't make
definitely.
that many. New England, Drake May, he's probably going to take that next step with Steph and some of the Travion Henderson. Even the guys in the division, right? Bryce Young looked really good at the end of the season, and they get him Tet, and you love Tet. And,
Yeah,
if
I
he
do
can
love
hit,
that.
I think that'll be good. With Atlanta, it's, you got to see what happens with Penix. He's still young. Tampa's good. It's just, there's a lot of teams that it's so hard, right? The Rams and the
Yeah.
Bills, that they're gonna probably whoop your ass. But Seattle, it's like, does Darnold pan out? Does Fields pan out? New York, does Miami bounce back? Like it's hard, but I think, yeah, 5 is maybe realistic. I think you probably split some of these division games. It's
Yeah,
always
that's right. Yeah.
competitive, and the Giants aren't great, and the Titans are young, and maybe Ward doesn't pan out, but it is it's tough. You got to start looking at next season. Hopefully, if
Yeah.
Shuck doesn't really hit early on, and you're like, okay, this is the guy. We can win some games here. Start doing mock drafts about week 5.
Yeah, I'll turn on more college football and start learning some guys' names. But I think, like you just said, a lot of these teams, they are question marks. It's just hard to kind of predict where these teams are at until week 1, until I can see some of these teams. I'll be most likely at the Bills game week 4, which will be fun. At least it's not going to be winter time, so I won't be freezing my ass off watching my team get whooped. But I was pissed. I was going to be in town in New Orleans for week 10, and then they got an away game, which sucks. but I'll be down in New Orleans watching the game with the fans. So I feel like a true New Orleanian for a week, which is nice. But anyways, that'll do it for our schedule reaction episode. Ty, do you have any big closing thoughts or anything like that for this season's schedule?
Yeah, one of the teams, I guess two teams, one team in the AFC, one team in the NFC that I think a lot of people are sleeping on. One, I think the NFC, I think the Rams. I think they should be the NFC's favorites. They were very, very close to beating the Eagles last year, and I love what they did in the offseason, adding Devontae Adams. I think that's a huge upgrade for them. So I think, they're a team we're sleeping on. And the team in the AFC, I think we're sleeping on the New England Patriots. I love bringing in Vrabel. I think May takes another step up. They did a lot in the offseason that I loved on the defensive side and the offensive side, really in the trenches. I think I was kind of running through that PFN, postseason predictor today. I had them at like 10 wins. Like I could see that being a realistic thing. And 10 wins and they were missing the playoffs. That's tough. But I think if you told a New England Patriots fan last year that the Patriots were going to win 10 games next season and, really look promising and maybe they missed the playoffs, but they'd be very happy with that. So I think we're sleeping on them too.
Yeah, they'd be ecstatic. I think to me, some of the teams I'm most interested in seeing would be the Bears, right? I mean, obviously, I want to see if Ben Johnson can really take them up another level. And if not, is Caleb Williams on his way out after, are they trying to replace him with the next draft? Because there's a lot of quarterback talent coming out in 2026. So that's a team they either ball out right away and we see it, or they're going to be kind of struggling and maybe Caleb Williams is on his way out. I'm trying to think of some other teams. I mean, obviously I'm interested to see Tyler Shuck, how he does, but the Titans, I'm really interested to see what Cam Ward does because they got completely hosed on the schedule. They didn't get a primetime game. It seems like the NFL does not believe in them at all. And I mean, it's probably rightfully so. They're still in a rough spot outside of Cam getting their quarterback. They're going to be a developmental year, but I want to see kind of what they do this season. And then I really want to see the Bengals kind of how they bounce back after last season. And just truly, is that offense able to carry the team? And can some of these defensive players turn it around and get them into the playoffs? And as well as Trey Hendrickson, right? What the hell is going on with that over the offseason? Can he come back? What is going on there? And then shout out to Hammer's team, the Packers. Real quick, Hammer, obviously, he's really high on the Packers. I do still think they'll be solid. Do they take a step back with a lot of their divisional opponents stepping up this season? I think the Vikings could improve with McCarthy, or not improve, but still be good with McCarthy. And then the Bears, they're improved. They either improve or don't improve. Maybe they take a leap above the Packers. So a lot to unpack and a lot to unfold this upcoming season. Next week I think we'll probably be doing like another team ranking or something like that, and maybe some news drops. I'll keep you guys updated on social media with that. But I'm really excited for the off season. We'll try to get a lot of good content for you guys, but the NFL schedule is finally released. Now the anticipation just keeps growing for the season. So we'll see NFL football in 3 months. You guys know what to check us out on social media at Jenks Island and wherever you get your podcasts at Jenks Island as well. And we will see you guys next week.